Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Job Shop USA. My name is Keith and we're in my job shop, Turn Right Machine Works. We're continuing on with our water jet projects because we just finished rebuilding the pump in my WAZER and we're ready to rock and roll again. The next project we're taking on is a small plate. This one here is melted away. The original plate was aluminum. We're going to be making that same plate out of stainless steel. That plate mounts to the carrier for the crucible in my centrifugal caster. There's 2 bolt holes at the bottom and then 2 rods that this flows through, and then this comes up and it shields. Because here's another part that I'm going to upgrade to what I see on the new modern centrifugal casters. All right, so I've already got my piece drawn out and I've already loaded it into the WAM to generate the G code, and we're going to be cutting out 2, one to put in here and one to have a backup there. And who knows, we'll save the file, and if other people want the same thing, I'll have it available as well. All right, so let's go cut this out. All right, stainless steel material, fill the abrasive, confirm water's on. We also do that right here. And fasten material to the bed, set the nozzle height, we've already done that. And this is cut metal. Here we go. Such a great sound to hear my machine functioning, and I even think it sounds better than when I first got the machine. It's real smooth. I have a couple sound bites of when I first fired it off, looking at the gauge, and we're going to judge that with what we got right now. So we'll put those side by side and we'll be able to hear that, and also look at the gauge and we'll judge that as well. But I'm totally happy. I packaged up the old pump head and all the components that they sent me to put in for the refurbishment, and that's already on its way back so that they can analyze what happened, and we'll see if we learn anything from there. Getting close to being done with the first part. I think I'm gonna reach in and grab it. All right. Oh, hey, sometimes you get interrupted by phone calls. All right, so there's my new plate. Gonna fit in there nice. I gotta grab the screws, but I think the screws are gonna go right in there anyway. And I've actually take this and it slides back and forth on the double rails that it's already supposed to slide in. This material did happen to have plastic on the back side of it. So if you were water jetting the material with plastic on the back, you got a protected surface there. This was the side here that was in the package. All right, we'll get these deburred, and then we'll kind of we'll screw it in place, and we'll see how it looks in on my project here. Yesterday, we've cut out a pair of shields, and they're actually a stop for the crucible sliding all the way in position, and then this snout goes right over the crucible. You can see the old plate only went up about halfway right there, and so this is our spare. In here, I mounted the crucible on here, and you can see we slide back and forth. You want it to be slightly sticky, like that. Everything is just real close. There's no lubricant on any of this stuff, no oils, nothing here. So this is really a little aluminum block, and then these are stainless steel supports on the side for the dovetail. All right, but that face comes in, and that's the new design for the shield and support for the crucible. All right, we did nothing to it but chamfer those holes, just broke the edge and took the surface off the outside. Everything just screwed together exactly right. Now we're going to be coming up, we have another WAZER project for this tool of ours, but customers have come in and interrupted our workflow, and we actually have 2 bearing flanges that we're going to have to make on the WAZER. And I hammered this apart because this was stuck to one of those. You can see that they ran it a little bit past the life of the bearing. So we got 2 new bearings, and the original bearing was narrower than the one we procured. We could not find, we did extensive search, and we're pretty good at searching out bearings. So in our design of these 2 flanges, we're just going to make them out of 1/8 instead of this is like 80 thousandths or so. We're going to make them out of 1/8, and then we're going to make them exactly like these, but we're going to, well, without the wear, but a little bit thicker, and then we're just going to machine that 30 thousandths on each one of these, and it'll make up the difference for the 16th on this. So let's get going on this project. Our flanges are in there cutting now. We had a piece of steel already had some cutouts in it, so we got 3 of them being cut out in the back side of the plate, and then we moved over and kind of jogged 180 from the corner to the other side of the plate, and we got the other 3. We're doing 6. We only need 4, but I like to have a couple samples, and I also like to have 1 or 2 in case we fob up somewhere along the line. All right, those are going to cut out now, and then we'll be right back as soon as they're all finished. All right, you can see the difference in the thickness there, and that's let me machine out so the bearing will set into the face a little bit. Awesome. You know, removing a lot of the steps along the way is these are open air areas anyway. We just had to have 3 holes in the right position. So just offsetting the face of the bearing pressure, we're good to go. All right, I just looked over. It's about 99% done, and all 6 of those will be cut out. I did deburr this one here, and I ran the reamer down through the holes because the holes were just a little bit tight for a bolt to slip in there. Sometimes if you undershoot it a little bit, you got to compensate. But the whole location was automatically done, so I don't have to. I just free-handed the reamer through them. Here we go. These are all pop out here. All right, the little ones will pop those out. Awesome. All right, we just took these in the lathe and the closing. It just happened to fit in those little grooves on the 3-jaw. We spun it up and took 3 cuts across there and reduced that subset, that face right here. And whoop. Okay, our holes line up and we got the thickness. Here's our old race here, just barely fits in here. All right, our customer should get that, and if it needs to be adjusted, he's just down the road. He'll bring it back and we can tweak it a little bit there. All right, now let's run on to our next project for the WAZER. We are going to be cutting out 3 cradles, all different sizes. One this size here, one a little smaller, and one a little bit bigger. They just kind of hang over the arms on each side, and it's cradles in here. We're keeping them nice and thin like this. 100 thousandths is our thickness, and the width is going to be 1/2 inch. So we're actually cutting this out of 1/2 inch plate. Now the thing is, this is flexible and bending, and this is probably 50 series aluminum. We're cutting our part out of 6061, so it's going to be more rigid but still nice and lightweight, and we're going to get the shape that we want, that will hold everything exactly on the center, have a slot so that it can expand and contract. All right, so here we go. Okay, we finished deburring and cleaning up our flask supports. Now I've got this one slid all the way in there. You can see the flask, it fits it perfectly. All right, and then of course when it's slid out and it's positioned out here, about right there, when you drop in that hot flask, you're going to be dropping it in and sliding it. You can have tongs on it, so that, you know, tongs fit in here like this. Okay. All right, now let me show you all three of them stacked up together on here. All right, how's that? All three of them are on here, and you can see that all three of them line up with each of their registers in the flange there. Okay, so this project is a wrap. We're going to conclude this video, and before I go, take a look at our next project. All right, this is going to be a high-tech precision cookie dough squirter. Our customer keeps breaking these, and she wants one or two made out of stainless steel. All right, until next time, get her done.